Okay, stage two. We're now into the visible light and we're going to go right up the rainbow. That's not any sort of belief or anything, it's just color coding for convenience.
We're not talking about drug culture
Visible light referring
in
to it
this episode.
appearing in culture, appearing as something that can be seen from space or that's documented in literature of some sort or tradition of some sort. In Magenta, we get into these little village situations, multifamily tribal systems, depending on where we are. People learn that you can plant crops and stay there and form a little society. And the way that we start organizing things, since we're so powered by language now, language is the new technology. Language is a superpower. And so
Hmm.
words are magical. The word is the thing. If I hurt the word, it hurts the thing. If I make a simulacra, a little representation of something, and I harm it, it harms the real thing. So
Hmm.
in the Magenta Fear land, we're going to see a lot of fantasy. Lots and lots of horror is going to have Magenta in it. Monsters, spirits, demons, anything based on lore, ancestral spirits, nature spirits, curses. Human sacrifice becomes a thing in order to ensure the seasons
Yeah, depending on motive. Yes.
and any kind of like summoning, witchcraft, and even ghosts and curses. But not gods, not people gods, spirits of nature, spirit, elemental spirits, forces of nature. There's this kind of slippery slope between Magenta and the next stage, but here we're staying really constrained to kind of magical thinking, magical animism.
The thing that kept me in our pre-episode discussion kept me from slipping into red or lower amber stages or memes was, is it fear of the terrible known, or is it fear of the terrible unknown?
Yeah.
So is it a specific god that you're afraid of? Is it Zeus you're afraid of? Or are you afraid of this general thing that you don't quite understand, but you do know that you should be afraid of it?
And do the rules make sense, or are they just kind of weird, like the rules of how
Ambiguous, tribe to
yeah.
tribe, they change slightly, but similar. But the outcome is we don't know.
And a lot
So
of
what happens if
times,
we don't do that? We don't know. When you click into red, like, if you don't do that, here's what's going to happen. There's known. It's fear of the semi-known.
and magic as opposed to myth, there's a lot of like, if a river's fast, we kind of personify that as like excited or angry. It's a lot of
Mhm.
sort of analogy, as opposed to having a clear system, even if that's also nonsensical to today's rational standards. Yeah, it's going to be pretty non-specific. The rules are going to be a little like, the rules to the gremlins actually make sense. They just have different biology.
They make zero sense, and we'll get into that later. What's midnight in space?
Oh yeah, well,
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, anyway, I get what you're saying, and in the development of humans as a society, we've got a little bit of time to let our minds wander and create things. So it's like, why did lightning happen? Well, it happened because of some ambiguous event or something I didn't do. Where when we click into red, why did lightning happen? It's because Zeus is mad because of
Yeah.
this. It's very specific.
Instead of like this guy's making the lightning happen, the lightning itself is
Is
a
it's yeah.
is a person, like is like a
Mhm.
character. It's like
We're
a
trying to
antagonist.
understand the
Personifying
world as a
something.
creature gifted with thought, and we
Hmm.
haven't quite figured it out, but we figured enough out to make up stories about it.
Okay. And Danielle, have you seen Serpent and the Rainbow?
I have not.
Okay, none of you guys have seen Serpent and the Rainbow. All right, it's like a pseudo zombie movie. It's about like voodoo magic. And like Bill Pullman gets zombified. He gets like buried, and they try to turn him into a zombie. And there's a lot of magenta in it. He has like weird, like visionary dreams, and that's a good one. Classic. I want to say like late '80s Wes Craven movie. And it pisses me off too because it has the same. I got it confused. I'd get the wrong movie. Pet Cemetery and Serpent in the Rainbow have like the same box almost. It's like a white face with like the title
But
down
like the
here, and
movie,
it's
the
like,
movie case looks similar.
yeah. So I would like I'd get them confused. I'd like rent the. It's like, wait, this is Pet Cemetery again. I've seen this. Like, what's the zombie one? Like,
I was looking it up. Yeah, it was from like 88. So I
Back in the late 1900s, we would go to establishments and rent films, physical copies of films.
showcase
usually VHS.
Blockbuster. Mm,
Mm, oh
those were the
man.
days.
I hated Blockbuster and
Yeah,
Hollywood
I
Video.
know, I know, I know. It was trash. Curses, right? Foiled again.
Yeah,
And voodoo, skeleton key. This
great
was in that
one. That's a
phase where
great
everything
movie.
had a twist ending. Everything was trying
Hmm.
to have a twist ending, at least. In
Phase.
yeah, if
Yeah.
they didn't, you'd be very disappointed.
It wasn't even a twist.
What was the deal with that one? I know it was hoodoo, I think, in this case, right? Which is like very similar to
They,
voodoo, but
I believe they were stealing their bodies, right? They were like switching bodies. The
Mm,
older people were switching bodies with the younger people, and they
right.
had to make them believe in voodoo so that it would work.
yeah.
And so the whole film was like building all this like up in her head to make her believe, oh my God, like voodoo's real. And then like, yeah, she
It's
gets body snatched
yeah,
or whatever
immortality through just
through
consecutive body
through
snatching.
stealing people's bodies
Yeah.
through voodoo. Yeah.
But unless that like door in your mind was open that voodoo was real,
That
you're
yeah, you
impervious
were
to that.
safe. Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, the premise of the movie is just like, oh, there's an infant, take it. Now I have a whole nother
Yeah,
life. Now they have to believe.
Yeah, they
a
have
lot of times that's
exactly.
like a plot element in both magic and myth, where like it's if you believe in it, it is true,
Hmm.
and if you don't, that will
That's when
save
it
you from
becomes
it.
dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to believe in order for it to work. Like it requires
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
you to
Tinkerbell is probably
invest.
voodoo.
Ah,
Tinkerbell.
yes.
And then also with regard to twist endings, we
Mm,
had thought of the village. The village has elements
yep.
of higher stages, but
Hmm.
the
Yep.
main thing is that they have this kind of magical fear of the unknown, fear of the outside world, and they're deliberately trying to manifest that. They're trying to create that fear by staging monster attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, outside of horror, we do like we do want to mention a couple of pseudo horrific things, horror elements. One movie is Apocalypto,
Mhm.
which
Hmm.
tells the story of basically a man in a magenta society
Society.
and
Yeah.
scenario and family who then is attacked and encounters Red Meme, which is our next stage. And then after like escaping from that, like getting out of that problem, then the next stage after that, Amber Orange is coming over on boats. So it's like multiple stages of horror all in one picture that isn't particularly it's like a suspense drama, but it's definitely frightening. It's a very
It's got some
It
horror
nails
aspects
heavy
to it
duty.
stages.
for
Yeah.
sure.
And definitely a horror for our protagonist, for our hero.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And like magenta and red, it would be horror to anyone, like by today's standards, for most people. And then also Castaway again, which we brought up in as a good infrared example. Well, as he's on the island, naturally on his own, he starts developing a sort of magenta system in order to cope. And this is exactly how
Yep.
it happens. He already has the higher stages loaded in his brain, but he's regressed to the very lowest one and he's slowly working up. So he takes like this volleyball that he happened to have and he smears blood on it and makes a face. So now the volleyball is like a spirit to him and he talks to it, it invests meaning into his life and he
Yep.
grieves when he loses it. So
Hmm.
I do this. I have familiars and amulets and things with the modern understanding, but this is native to our brain to do this. We're all magicians, just like we're all any old baby. We're also all magicians. We all need to have these sort of beliefs, items that we consider special,
Hmm.
protective, sentimental, nostalgic kind of things is a bit magenta. It's to do with your own personal magic system, and that
We
can
see
be a
it in
group thing or an individual thing.
the development of children will have a favorite stuffed animal or a blanket
Oh yeah.
that empowers them to be brave.
Hmm.
There's some magic associated, whether they don't believe that at the time because that's just the way the world works.
Yeah.
Their basic need of survival is covered, so now they can think about things beyond the right now, and look at environment, look at the future, look at the past to an extent that would make you need a familiar, need a power item to feel safe and comfortable.
Totem
Yeah, exactly.
Totem, yeah. And then we can look at movies. Still, again, there's not like really a whole lot of magenta filmmakers or storytellers. I mean, that's still pretty rare. But we can look at fear of magenta society. Like I brought up Cannibal Holocaust, which I believe is an Italian kind of exploitation film that's trying to be really graphic. It's like about a researcher going into a magenta culture. It's totally fake, but
We made it up.
they're this brutal kind of cannibal society, and it's our reaction to seeing that society that from our perspective seems kind of brutal and savage and without base in their magical belief system. Anything that has to do with ancestor spirits, right? So ghosts of a non-specific nature, non-religious, but just ghost spirits, because there was that personality that existed. Nothing truly ever dies. I can't think of any ghost movies. Are there any ghost movies?
The Grudge.
Are there any
Right?
ghost movies? He says.
So I think The Grudge is a good one, right? That was
So that's
based on
that's good. Yeah, like Japanese,
ghosts.
like Shinto sort of spirit beliefs. Unclear what the rules are. Unclear. It's scary. It's coming at you. Elements of that whole kind of genre there. What like Blackwater, The Ring,
The Ring,
Ringu,
yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
There's an antagonist that is known, but motivation, origin, all of that is kind of unknown. The human mind trying to make sense of its environment, and so making up a story that's loosely based on observation. So there's no definitive, here's how to end it, here's how to begin it. Witchcraft has some of that. So witchcraft kind of straddles these stages.
Yeah.
Depends on what we're looking at. Are we looking at a Blair Witch type situation where it's completely lore based and no one really knows the rules, knows the answers? Or are we looking at something, more poltergeist-ish where there's somebody that knows what's going on here? It's just not commonly known.
Well, let's talk Blair Witch. Blair Witch Project about found footage, exploring a local legend about like local lore, right? About something spooky in the woods, has something to do maybe with witches that were there. It's got a lot of stages in it, and in particular, I would like to say that the filmmaking is green when we get up to green. Just that kind of you're in the woods and there is a spirit after you and it's magical in nature, and really it's their fear of it that sabotages them, and their belief in it that kind of sabotages them more than the actual spirit itself. They fuck up.
The
Like,
majority of the movie is the fuck around stage.
yeah.
And then the last 10% they find out.
And then Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows, gets a lot more magical animism, gets a lot more into spooky stuff, nonsensical, like changing history magic. So it's just
Mind
utterly
altering.
no rules. And
We talked about Oculus along the same lines
yeah.
of a mirror that has no rules, but there is some rule, but we don't know it. And it takes over your mind. So there's time loss, there's memory loss, and there's possession. Like you could be doing something unbeknownst to you.
Oculus and like 1408, it's just like there's something fucking wrong with that room. Like I don't know what.
That
but that's
thing
just
or that room.
What about that? There was a movie where like ghosts could come through the computers
Oh God.
or some.
VHS? No.
No, and like
I
don't
kind of know what
remember
you're talking about. Ugh.
Yeah, and like I feel like that's kind of around the same lines. Like I don't know, like people didn't really know the rules, and then like people had to like put tape on the windows, and I don't
I don't know.
remember.
Oh, that's the
Pulse was the movie with the dead people finding their ways through the electronics, like computers and stuff. I'm really bad. I'm like I remember it, but I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, it's just the
I've seen
worst. You're just like,
too
what?
many
That
movies.
one movie where it's
So
like,
Yeah.
like
the
a
video is
guy-
us all sitting here like, what's that movie? And then a cut to Adam with like cardboard and garage bag. Pulse. And then back
Yeah.
to the conversation.
And like every single person watching, it's just like it's fucking Pulse. They better say it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God damn it.
this isn't ringing
That
any
was a
bell.
weird movie, but it freaked me out. Like I was like, I don't like that.
Speaking of ringing any bell, Annabelle,
Oh yeah,
cursed
Annabelle.
doll, cursed
Cursed
anything, right?
dolls. Yep.
Poltergeist too, ghost movie, and coming through the TV in the ring, coming
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
through the electronics.
Yep.
Just because we have electronics, and there's that primal fear when you see TV static. Like, wait, what am I looking at here? It just because it's chaos, like this sort of malevolence seems to emerge from that because it is like an unknown. Like maybe those random pixels of white and black will assemble themselves into the devil. They could by random chance.
I mean, they could.
And Poltergeist is great too because on a magenta to red burial ground where a curse is on it, and then the
Mhm.
magic is very like no rules. It's just like the tree comes to life. There's an other dimension that you can like fall into behind the wood. It's just like totally like I don't get what's going on here, but it's something bad.
It's
Bad news.
majestic AF until the cleric comes in, the psychic. Then she's red.
This house is clear.
The problem is with people who are dead is they don't know they're dead. Yeah,
Problem is,
she
they
is
don't know
red.
they're
She's putting
dead.
structure to this made up story, and then our family kind of starts to understand it and could ultimately defeat it somehow.
So there's some growing up there. Yeah, we don't know it's magenta, and then she comes in with a little bit of mythos, with a little bit of
Uh-huh.
rules. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Another good curse movie is Drag Me to Hell. I thought that was a good
Now
if we're
what's
on
what's
like
Drag Me to Hell? Because I didn't see it and I wanted to.
so it was a woman who was working at a bank and
Sounds evil.
she denies an extension for a woman who's a, a gypsy. I don't lack of what is a she's a gypsy. And so the lady curses
If for
her.
travelers.
Okay, well the lady
I don't. Is
curses.
gypsy a racist word? Is that what we're worried?
Yes.
Okay.
That's I'm
I mean,
yeah,
there's
I
real
don't
gypsies, right? Like there's an actual.
Oh,
It's like
sort
it's like
of.
Jewish. Like Jewish isn't a slur. There's actual Jewish people. Like
I don't know. I'm just trying to be careful. But yeah, so she curses her because she's mad that she didn't get the extension, and then she dies, and like so she's like trying to figure out how to get the curse to end, and like yeah, she never figures it out, or like something happens. I don't remember. But yeah,
I would
that's a
is
imagine
that one of the
something
ones where
happens.
they crawl up the walls and crawl on the ceiling and turn their head around backwards?
no.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, she like no, no. Well,
I
I don't
didn't
want to
see it.
spoil it
Oh,
too
okay.
much, yeah, but
But you'll spoil Jaws for everyone.
okay.
Oh,
I
oh
mean,
God. He says, "Smile, you son of a bitch," and then shoots the fuel tank in the shark's mouth, and the shark dies. And then they,
I
and in the
appreciated that
video
they
game,
got a
they
bigger
ram it
boat.
with the boat too. But that happened in Jaws 2, I think.
Yeah, they gets a little muddy.
And then you mentioned Thinner, right?
yeah,
Native
Another curse.
another
Native
curse.
American curse, yeah, that they give you a magic
First
pie,
Nations.
and whenever you eat it, you can no longer get calories from food. All the food you eat just vanishes, and you die of
Hmm.
hunger. Basically, you waste
Yeah.
away. It's a vengeful thing. It's a
Was it Steven Spielberg?
well, Stephen
I don't
King as
remember.
Richard
Stephen
Bachman
King.
as his
There we go.
fake,
There we go.
yeah,
Yeah.
did like the Running Man original story and
Mm,
Thinner, a couple others. Yeah,
yeah.
he just wanted to kind of go see if he could succeed again as another name. It's kind of interesting. And sure enough, no problem.
Oh, we
Ghost
also said
films,
haunted places, right? That would
haunted
be
places,
so
people,
like
objects. Yeah.
houses,
Cursed
like maybe
homes.
Rose Red would be a good
Yep.
one for haunted
Another
house.
Stephen King.
I do like Paranormal Activity is probably my favorite series
Mm.
because it's never explained
Wait, favorite
why
series of all?
of horror.
Okay, O'Hara. Okay.
Horror.
Yeah, probably. It's never explained. It's never shown. It's just like a Loki type, not low key, but Loki
Low key.
type
Yeah.
malevolent thing that's just trying to destroy you
Yeah,
for no reason,
make you go crazy.
known to us. There's no point.
Again with like the TV static and things coming out of just like in a dark room. Like did that camera capture a face? Did you hear a voice? You know, that's very like that's how
Mhm.
the magenta kind of manifests these like spirits is you actually can, you know, what's the word like apophenia or whatever. Like you can find patterns that can be scary,
Oh yeah,
but they're not
right.
actually real. They're just kind of your mind turns everything into personalities.
Mhm.
Into something familiar. That's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
Magenta's trying to do. It craves familiarity out of chaos.
And then
That's how Ghost Adventures made all of their money and was so successful. Is like, watch this show because there might at one point be something.
and hopefully unthink me too, because we did just capture some footage in a haunted place where hopefully we'll uncover some audio artifacts and some sounds on the spirit box. I had it like right by my ear and I was repeating back everything it said. And then we sang a couple beautiful songs to the ghosts. So
Oh,
stay tuned for
Nice.
Unthink Me Goes Ghost Hunting. She's as cold as ice. BBS Martinez. Spiral bug. Oh, I'm sorry. So any witchcraft, you know, in today's world, magenta shows up in our people who aren't magenta people, but it
mhm.
shows up in us as those sort of superstitions. I mean, I'm not superstitious. I'm a little stitious, but like
Just a
any
little.
kind of like don't step on a crack, you know, don't walk under a ladder, that kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Don't break a mirror.
Candyman again, you know, Bloody Mary, these sort of
Rituals,
rituals, yeah.
summoning. Yeah,
And it gets
Hmm.
into out of lore and into myth, but that part of it is remains like magical thinking, magical animism.
the development line of this is very noticeable in a child to adult development in one having the blanket or having the doll that makes you brave, but also the monster in the closet needing a nightlight, things under the bed. Same. That's the opposite end of magenta. Things that don't exist, that have no power, that make you weak.
And this is very magenta. Like I have this. You can't see it, but I have a
At
coffee
all.
cup,
No.
and if I'm mad enough and I invest that madness into this cup, it actually makes sense to our primitive brains that I've made the cup evil or angry by doing that. It actually that kind of makes sense. If I'm just mad at water for a while, that water will take on my madness. Like if you didn't know anything about science or anything, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Well,
You know,
even actual science, there is very loose, very vague.
careful.
Yeah, there are very vague studies that are, fringe science that say you can excite particles differently based on the emotion that goes into it.
Oh,
You'll
sure.
see on YouTube shorts and YouTube amateur scientists, putting hate into soil and the plant doesn't grow so
Mm.
well. It's pretty loose.
I'm thinking of
But
the
if you want to go
ectoplasmic
down that rabbit
slime.
hole, there's things that'll satiate that thirst if you'd like.
I'm thinking of the slime in Ghostbusters too, you know, where they
Oh
can,
yeah.
if you yell at
Yes.
it, it gets bigger.
Your love
Yeah.
is lifting
And they
me
play the song and it
higher.
dances
Yeah.
the toaster. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Hmm.
It's that's magical animism at its core, though. Is it's a really logical thing. Just like if you invest your emotions into an artifact or a place, like it'll actually be that way, and that'll convey to other people, and that's the core of it, really. And there is truth to it. I like to think it's not as much the real right quadrant stuff, you know, the measurable stuff, but it's more psychological and cultural in nature. That if you invest positivity into your people and into yourself, that will create positivity. If you invest negativity, that will come back to you, you know, almost like karmically. But again, like karma sort of can be understood as magic, can be understood as myth, and can be understood as like an advanced science. But they're very
Hmm.
different perspectives of the same thing. Just
Hmm.
like magic today can be practiced at a like rational or post-rational level, but the way you do it is in the way you understand it is going to be very different. And that can create a lot of the pre-trans fallacy between early and late stages, because you build on the early stages. So you're still going to have magic, but you're going to need to understand rational, analytical, logical, scientific in order to really use it in today's world realistically, instead of just thinking that if I'm mad at a cup, the cup becomes mad and then I give it to you and it hurts you.
Hmm.
So that's where people get
Absolutely.
confused about the difference between like magenta magic and like later stage magic, where we could actually measure it scientifically on some level or in terms of brain scanning and
We don't need
particle
to dig
physics.
into it heavily in this episode, but
Yeah.
I found my life got markedly better when I abandoned magic and mysticism.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Yeah.
It's hard to be able to say, well, I'm proven wrong, and then adopt
Yeah.
that sort of thought.
I
I'm
think
not saying
we've,
magic, people who believe in magic and mysticism is wrong. I'm not trying to start
yeah.
that debate. What's good for you is good for you, may not be good for me, or may
Yeah.
be
I'm a
changed the way
straight
I
up
looked at everything.
spiritualist. It's like who I am and what I do. And yeah, I am 100%. Yeah, I've abandoned belief systems. I don't have beliefs. I don't believe that magic does anything in material reality. So I'm completely on board with that. Yeah, start from there. Start from like all that stuff is cracked out. Like all that
Hmm.
stuff, I don't buy it. But then like look at it in terms of like what does it do psychologically? What does it do culturally? Is that
Psychologically,
productive?
now we're talking about
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
If I can make you believe that if you walk out of your front door on a Tuesday when the sun is in a certain part of the sky and the weather is a certain temperature, and I make you believe that your whole life, you're going to have some sort of physical effect
Oh
if
yeah.
you go against that. Your psychosomatic reaction is very real.
If I'm an alcoholic because life is meaningless, right? And I find that the Christian God is the controller of the universe and cares about me, and that allows me to quit drinking. That's a good belief, even though like you might not actually believe it. Like that's why
Right.
AA has these sort of religious beliefs built into it.
We're going down a bit of a crazy tangent, but I did actually 2 days ago talk to someone about AA, about the God part in there,
Yeah,
and he told me whether you believe or not, the it's more the ability to accept that you can't control everything.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
If you want to believe that that's a deity, if you want to believe that that just means you're a human being who is at the will of your surroundings, like however you want to believe it, the step gained there is that you have to allow yourself to to know that you cannot control everything. That's
yeah.
it.
Transcend and include, we get to a stage where we have to reject these things because we understand them to be wrong from a higher perspective, in
Hmm.
certain ways. But then also include embracing that those
Chaos.
systems, as for their productive values, which is why people invented them in the first place. Yeah, and that they're native to how our brain works. Right.
Hmm.
Now, Mama, what's that all about?
I think it was a ghost story
Kind of
ultimately.
like Gollum, ghost. Yeah.
That
Um,
Gollum ghost.
Well, a golem or a ghost, like however you look at it. Yeah.
Oh, like Dare Gollum. I
spirit,
A
gotcha.
being.
a
Yeah.
spirit
Who was physical in the physical realm.
to a degree.
Able to manipulate reality, like things in reality,
Mm.
move things, stop things, push things. Yeah, physical.
Both Wicker Man and Midsummer are very similar movies in terms of their
Mm.
themes and attitudes, and we had a lot of debate about like where these actually
I think they're
sit
going to fall on multiple
Yeah.
places.
all
It's
all over
not
the
here or
place.
there. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like
This,
Castaway just keeps coming up because it's a
yeah,
banger.
yeah.
These
It's not even
also,
horror, but it
yeah,
is a
these are
banger.
also multi-tier,
Aw.
multi-stage
Yeah.
films.
The specific parts of those movies that are magenta are these sacrificial beliefs and these beliefs in sort of wearing animal costumes to honor spirits of nature, and to ensure the harvest we must do this thing, which is kind of nonsensical, but it's just lore. Lore is a key word. I was arguing that there's fear of amber, but really there's also that heavy fear of magenta, magical thinking. And then, okay, this gets us to our selection here. So, first of all, runner up, Pumpkinhead,
Mm.
magical ceremony in a,
Hmm.
graveyard.
Ceremony for sure.
Yep, some sort of demon, unclear rules can be brought into. I invest my anger into a pumpkin, and it becomes a demon that kills the people that I need vengeance on. Right? Okay, but the best one, the one I like the best anyway, Pet Cemetery. You have like a Magenta Meme culture that discovers a graveyard where when you bury a body of any living creature, it will come back, but not the same. It'll come back
Hmm.
as an
The
evil
cursed
spirit
ground.
with parts of the original creature still going, but that evil spirit will eventually take hold. I watched the most recent Pet Cemetery Bloodlines while I was on vacation. Fantastic. I actually quite liked it. I didn't see the remake of Pet Cemetery, but I'm assuming it's, essentially the same picture as the 90s one. I think that that's a classic trope of horror that really reflects Magenta thinking is the haunted burial ground consecrated by bloodshed and a sense of vengeance and belief that like certain areas have certain spirits, and if enough like bloodshed and fear and horror occur there, that land is now made tainted and unholy
Hmm.
or evil or whatever. And
Yeah.
then you bury something in it. And again, the animism is it goes from the soil into the body, and that body is given the power to live again by spiritual evil.
If you think about like how physical transactions happen at the bank or any convenience store in the Bronx and Brooklyn, where you open the door, you place your money inside, you close the door, the other door opens to grab the money out. You bury the thing, and now whatever other realm can get to it, but you can't get to the other realm. The other realm can't get to you. You have to open and close the door on each side, and in this case is burying a vessel.
Yeah, the magic has the black box. It's like there's an
Yep.
input, there's an output. I don't really get what this is. It's beyond us.
Hmm.
And so this starts to get codified across like a larger cultural setting into what we're going to start calling red meme here, so that everyone kind of agrees what it is, who it is. There's strict rules, and it becomes more dogmatic, and it becomes something where like if you don't believe this, we will kill you, as opposed to before you just believed it because it was everybody knows it. It's lore, and there was nothing
Yeah,
else to
that
know
that sounds
besides
hella
it.
red.
But now
If you don't
red's
believe
going to
this,
start to force you to believe in it because it's harder to believe. It's a little sillier. You're going to start having an underworld and a world up in the sky, and they're going to become very convoluted, and the
there's
spirits are going to
defined
start taking
origin
on.
and defined consequence.
Hmm.
Yep.
We know where this came from and we know where it's going if fill in the blank.
And the gods are going to become less nature and more human, more personality, more kind of
Specific.
is specific. They have like really specific names and attributes and characters, not just like, oh, it's like the forest, it's like the lake, it's like the cold, but instead it's like this guy who is the sun.
Yeah.
Is like he's
Larry
very specific. Yeah, he's Larry.
is always
And
pissed
every
off
single morning he gets
unless
up to
you
get him
burn
a
a
loaf.
donut in the driveway. Well, that's Magenta Meme and everything. As far as how our movie goes to our understanding and some key points and phrases to learn in there. I hope that the next time you watch a horror movie, you can spot magenta and you can spot ultraviolet.
Infrared.
Infrared.
Excuse me, infrared. Uh,
Sorry.
don't apologize for being right.
We never said we were right, guys.
I
All right.
have no right to 1 minute of your time. Thanks for
Yeah,
listening.
and if you disagree with any of our thoughts, we would love to see that kind of thing in the comments. I mean, feel free to bring it up.
Come
Yes,
at Adam in the
Yeah,
comments,
come
bro.
at us, bro.
bring it at us. Come on down to our Discord. We
Yeah.
have a whole spooky stuff section. We love your comments. I'm overdue to respond to a lot of them, but I will.
All right. See you next time.
I love how you can hear all that now. You can't hear that on
Yeah.
Discord. Welcome to Zoom,
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen.
singing, whistling, it cut all that out.
I like to sing. I just love it. Baby!